Hello. Good morning. Mosquito. Zuh. Dude, I am in a funk. I'm in a freaking funk right now. And we are going to get out of this shit. If I've got to go to the moon and back, if I've got to be beamed up, Scotty, if every single piece of connective tissue and sinew in my body has to dissolve into some kind of gelatinous material and then be heated up in a microwave to turn into some liquid that you would baste upon a pastry so you can get that nice, crispy, flaky edge, then so be it, dude. We're gonna get to the thick of it. What is going on, dude? My life is feeling chaotic and hazy. And, what can I do about that? Thank you. Ask and you shall receive. Dude, sometimes life is as simple as a posture change. Sometimes life is really as simple as taking a step back as opposed to leaning further into things. I half expected. I made a 3-hour long talk yesterday, and I've just been on a string of making ridiculously long form pieces of content, and I don't pop in here and expect some short shit or some long shit, but for the most part, I make plans and God laughs. Okay? I remember how I used to do things. I once took some kind of psychedelic drug, whether it be LSD or mushrooms or something like that, and I was still living with my mom at the time, and I was still doing a whole bunch of slimy, underhanded shit that it's like I have to leave the house and do these things. So I do these various nefarious things in my car, or at a park or in a parking lot or something like that. And it's like I knew in my heart of hearts I couldn't just do these things in my room, right? I guess you don't really see things from that perspective at the time. You just kind of think like, I want to get it done. How can we get it done? Where can we get it done? Oh, there's no OC. There's no open crib. Well, what about the other kind of OC? Open car, open caravan, open carnival. Fuck it. Find me a place where I can do these substances in peace, please. Because that in the life that is provided for you, in the life that is there for you, you'd rather do things to you. So you exchange one blessing for a curse. Excuse me as I sip this water like Kermit the Frog drinks tea. So, it appears that this whole channel, this whole sort of avenue of conversation, a lot of what it is me looking back into my own personal history, my own fuck-ups, and is doing what I can to be more of a role model, more of a masculine figure. Honestly, I don't even care if I come across as masculine or feminine. I'm not trying to hold myself to a hard and fast rule of how I should be, to you. But I spent a lot of time the kind of the relationships that I was very much a part of in my life, but in some pivotal years, being like 16, 17 to like 23, were relationships where there was avoidance, there was enabling, there was don't ask, don't tell behavior, there was go along to get along. There's a whole bunch of things. There's like, I don't want to know the answer, so I'm not going to ask the questions. I'd rather the empty silence of this spaciousness than have the spaciousness filled with an awkward conversation where I am to be held accountable for all the ways that I'm fucking up, or I'm not actually making any progress in the dreams of my life, and I'm simply just in a holding pattern. And these are conversations where people didn't want to hold me to the flame, they don't want to hold me to the fire, and I can't blame anybody for these things. You see, it's like I can't look to other people to hold me in my life to a certain standard in life. And this is something that I have always done. All the people who were fucking up in the ways that I wanted somebody to be the leader. And yet somehow, when it came to me in my life, I wanted someone to be the fucking sun. I wanted to be a plant that I could photosynthesize and just outstretch and reach towards that. I don't want to, I kind of want to keep this evergreen or whatever. I don't want to use specific names or people to this effect. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not exactly sure. But the relationships that I had in my life were people who let the worst parts of me grow. Okay? They let things, growing is great, right? But if we're to become more beautiful, look, we're already worthy of love. We're already beautiful, amazing specimens, and just to be alive is a blessing. But I'll tell you what, goddammit, there is something about gardening. There's something about pruning, and there's something about the art of the bonsai tree, and that is the cultivation of it. Okay, and so this is the growing that you do. This is being a fatherly figure. This is being a brotherly figure. This is being a friend. This is using your mind and using your heart for the good of everybody involved, right? But from the origins in which I came from, these people didn't use these skills, okay? People didn't use their hearts and minds. People didn't use their minds to be aware of things, and they didn't use their hearts to speak about these things that they were aware of. If they did that earlier, if I had somebody earlier who would shine the light upon these sort of demonic forces in my life, I don't know. I really don't know, right? I don't know. would I have turned away and said, fuck no, I'm selfish and I want to just continue my selfish ways. I want to do these things. I want to do these things because I want to do these things and this is how I want to live my life. And just fought, you know? You know, playing mercy with God, playing mercy with a strong-ass man. Being bashful. Wanting things my way. Or would I have seen something admirable in that? Would I have found a role model? Would I have seen somebody I could have replicated their way of life? Oh, wow, this person stands up for things that they believe in. This person gets into the thick of life and applies themselves to it, even when whatever. Basically, you know, a lot of my life was... I learned from people who would live their lives out, you know, sort of in the margins of life. They would do things that were like, yeah, I just want to, you know, people that would put up boundaries in their life. The origin story of my life is that I was surrounded by people who would live their lives in the margins. Basically, yeah, okay, we're just gonna, hey, stop. We're going to not attract attention to ourselves. We're not going to do that. You know, that family and their problems and their yelling children and all of this, let's let them handle that shit. You know, we're just going to stick to these things and these things only. And basically, it was a very, like, you know, I learned that life is not that. I learned that life is what you allow in your life. And so, when there's something out there in the world, and it has the ability to be interacted with, and you have, it's like a plug. It's like an outlet. It's like an outlet, and you're a plug. My whole life was basically like, yo, okay, we're not just going to plug ourselves into all these outlet holes. Why would we do that? Maybe those outlet holes are for other people. As I grew, I kind of became aware. I was like, whoa, you know? Huh. And this is because I didn't have role models of fire. I didn't have role models of earth. I didn't have role models of strength, stability. I didn't have role models of wood, the driving force of life. The only sort of role models I had in life were ones of Tai Chi, or were ones of movement, were ones of acquiescence, ones that were subservient to anything, that would sort of make way, part ways. Automatic opening doors to grocery stores, sensory, you know, sensors. Oh, sensors. Oh, someone's here. Open the door. Open sesame. And these were the kind of role models I had growing up. And so they weren't things that were more masculine in nature. I didn't have very many role models growing up like that. In real life, that interacted with me. Like, in all the ways that my role models of that nature came to me, they came much later. Or they came in the form of, like, cartoons, anime, TV shows. And these were characters that they were, if anything, they were merely roles that I would adopt from moment to moment. And I just think if I had a stronger figure in my life, that I just think it would be good. I just think it would be good, and that is all. You know, we can't go back and change the past. And we can't even imagine the sort of ripple effects that things will happen in time. But right now, this is essentially the kind of thing that is, the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 20 years ago. Who's to really say? But the best time to plant a tree was a long ass time ago. Really. The next best time would be right now. And so I don't blame anybody or hold myself, slamming my head into the, why didn't you do stupid. I don't treat myself like this. But I do know I got away with a lot of self-betrayal, really. And I would justify all these various poisons in my life. I would go out and just waste a ridiculous amount of time on frivolous things that eventually, they didn't even make me happy as I was doing them. Like, it came a point in time where you can't outrun yourself. And so when you become aware of, like, these various process addictions, like going shopping or just buying various things to make yourself feel better, and you recognize even before you're finished with the trip that it's just not hitting properly, and you go and you do it anyways, it's like, I wish I had someone to talk to me. I wish I had someone to connect to, and I really wish I was living more in my purpose and that I was paying attention to the intricacies of my inner dimension, my own conscious, what was going on in my own mind, what was going on in my own body and my feelings, my experiences, and so on and so forth. What things was I investing too much money, time, effort, all these resources into, and what was I not investing enough of my resources into? And where are the various points in my life where there's some kind of, like, air leak flattening my tires? So, no, necessarily no. I don't want to be your big bro. And that's not because I don't love you. No, I don't want to be your papi. I don't want to be your daddy. No, it's not because I don't love you. But because I operate under this principle more than anything in my entire life. And that's that I don't trust information. Okay? It doesn't even matter that I am the giver of the information in this moment in time. There were times where I loved Alan Watts. There were times where I loved Ram Dass. There are times where I've loved Bill Nye. There are times where I've loved Neil deGrasse Tyson, Joe Rogan, Jordan B. Peterson, Rainn Wilson, Stavros, Ari Shaffir, Theo Vaughn, Kanye West, Robert Bryson Hall III, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, you name them, Eminem, like J. Cole, whoever. If there was somebody who was conscious about their experience and they would share their experience, and I liked their sort of message or their MO to expressing it, and it just so happened to resonate with how I felt about something in the moment in time, David Cho, like, whoever. The thing that I realize about these tidbits of information is I would hold on to them and they would be like constellations in the sky, that would help me navigate the night sky. as I'm crossing these oceans. Here's from the heart. Here's from the heart. I don't know who you are listening to this. I don't know who you are. I know a little bit more of who I am and the things that I'm interested in. I don't expect these things to be this way forever in my life. But for a long time, these things have been the conglomerate of me. And so I don't know how much of me is to change and how much is to stay the same. I like exercising. I like art. And so I make a lot of art. I do a lot of exercise. I like martial arts. I like Tai Chi. I like moving around. I like speaking. I like weird, strange, philosophical, psychological, human behaviorals, patterns in the universe. I like ideas. I like the idea of doing hard things and doing them well. I like taking things that are complicated and simplifying them. I like taking things that are simple and cutting them up and looking at what the hell they're made of and see if things are really as simple as they might appear to be. I like making things simple. I like making simple things complicated and complicated things simple. I like looking into my own life and seeing where I can optimize it. I like self-help. I like making, my own life and the people's lives around me better somehow. And that's a whole other can of worms. The idea that I wanted to touch on is that all these people who I found admirable, big bros, just people out there in life, it's like who became the stars, the constellations in which I would navigate my world, navigate what it is I was going through and getting to, is that whole process of things was consuming. It was consuming and consuming and consuming. I don't think you have to consume to survive. You have to consume to live. But really, that's very, very, very... It's so hard to get from 0 to 1 is what I'm talking about. Our whole lives are 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, after 0, after 0, after 0, until eventually we finally hit a change, and that change is 1. And we finally hit 1, like Jesus Christ, something finally changed. And that change for me is the change between consuming information and letting the things that we have consumed sort of navigate our world, and change that into decomposing various belief systems in our lives that change our lives, producing things in our lives. When the shift happened from being a consumer to a producer and a decomposer of my life, I became more or less the person who I wanted to be. And so, maybe I'm tailoring a very, very specific message, and this is the message out there to those that have the aspects of that younger version of me who is capable, who wants to make things, who has this sort of intrinsic nature to want to make everything customized, to make everything, very much like for themselves and what they think is cool. It's like you need to invest more in that. You need to invest more in your own interests. And what that is, it goes against everything. It's like I've gone through the ringer. I don't know what the hell, dude. I don't have a direction in which to go, right? I can't tell you what is right or what's wrong. Because for me, I've seen how crazy the pendulum swings on what is right and what is wrong from any given moment. Like, I have this sort of, here's where my neuroticism is, okay? My own particular problem is that I always want to be doing. I always want to be making. And I want as much of my life to be, I want as much of my life, I optimize everything for this, like, everything. The reason why my place is clean and organized in the way that it is so anytime I want to just get right into the things of things, then it's more or less just readily available for me. My own neuroticism and my own issues about this is I recognize workaholism. I can see that, Sometimes I can just be hitting my head against the wall and making something arbitrary, and it's not even working for me. But something that I do understand about me is that the making of the thing is the thing for me that I initially looked for. A lot of these things, it's like I'll pop it open initially. It's like, hey, how are we feeling? Feelings check. And all of these things, in every endeavor, the things that I make is a sort of, the initial starting point is a feelings check. How am I feeling in this moment? And the creative process will get me there sometimes. Sometimes less so. Sometimes I'll find myself in the middle of making something, and then I figure out it's no longer for me, and it's no longer serving me, and it's something that's like in a dimension orthogonal to mine, and I'm trying to help somebody else who I don't even know if they exist. I believe they exist. And I do know that they exist, but do they ever get the fucking message in the bottle? Maybe so, maybe no, but less and less as I mature, do I let the if they get the message in the bottle or not affect the message that I will put into the bottle. When I was younger, a lot of the things that I would make were me trying to change myself by rallying the troops. Have I changed very much from that? I'm still that little kid. I'm still that little kid holding that birthday cake on the, dude, I'm still that little 6-year-old, bro. This is life. Just go out and live, okay? That might have been the cringiest thing I've ever put on social media ever. Mid-psychedelic trip, I'm going outside, I'm having revelations happen to me, and then I'm basically like, everybody, come on, you gotta just fucking live, guys. Live! And I put that up. Oh my God. Dude, Jesus Christ. I recognize I have grown from that moment. You see, and here's exactly why. Here's where the growth happened. That video, I wanted to take that 15-second snippet of being in a sort of revelatory, enlightened state of like courage and the message has been received. Here it is, everybody. Poof, live. Go. Live. Low. Go. Live. Be courageous and brave. Stand upright. And, then there was the sort of there was the sentence after that sentence, right? There was that little moment where it's like, well, what now? What do I say now? Oh, shit. I didn't realize this was a movie. Wait, are we live? Is this thing still rolling? Hey, is that thing still on? Oh, shit. Right, so I became like the spokesperson to like, yeah. You ever see that? You ever see that fucking that poster with that Russian strong lady? She's like flexing her biceps, like yeah, I get her. I was that for an instant, and then that's not to say that wasn't me and that wasn't real, but it was like my growth from that was. Whatever the sort of transitional phase after that. It was because I cared about what people thought of me, even through that, I cared what people thought of me. And that, there was still more layers to sort of let dry out or to expose to the earth, about who I was and who I was really and the real relationship with myself. Because in that instant, I wanted to be a person for other people, as opposed to sort of representing and advocating for the entire, sort of being, the entire conglomerate of various ways that any individual can be in their life, for all the emotions. All the emotions at their various volumes and dynamics with each other make up a human being. And so I had my preferences as to which ones were good, which ones were bad, and hitting them with a patapon rhythm. I was like, pata, 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 bon, 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 pata, bon, pata, 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 bon, 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 pata, bon. Fever! Get the people going, bro. Get the people going. Say something provocative. Just be in this, whatever it was. And I felt a lot of cringe in that moment in time. And that's because I knew of all the sort of ancillary work that still had to be done in my life. And I had no business sort of getting out there and saying, hey, guys, this is what we should be doing. It's like, who the hell did I think that I was? Getting out there and trying to orient the world and order the world and sort of do this when there was so much work that I needed to do in my life to bring it, to even really have any sort of What's that thing when you vote and like Alaska has a certain amount of like votes and then Florida will have a certain amount of votes? depending on the population. Electoral college. I didn't have enough mass. I didn't have enough weight. I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough slack built up. You know, I didn't have enough, like, I didn't have enough shit going on in my life that was like, I didn't have enough evidence of any sort of growth whatsoever in my life to even sort of be the kind of spokesperson for anything. I didn't have shit. I didn't have shit at all. And so I don't fault myself at all for these kinds of things. I mean, like, you don't know what you don't know, and you grow, and this is a process, and you get out, and you just do things from where you can at the time with the best of your knowledge and to the best of your abilities from moment to moment. Like, my life has never not been this. Even when I was young and naive, and even when I didn't have... Even when I was making wrong moves after wrong moves, and even after, you know, I was messing up and I was missing the mark time after time after time. It's not like I wasn't trying, or I wasn't really trying my best, or anything like this. I was doing the best with what I knew how to do to the level of awareness that I had. And I don't think that me sort of sending... Dude, this is that part in Interstellar right now where it's like Matthew McConaughey is going into the Tesseract and sending a message back in time, but it never gets received. It doesn't get received until... It doesn't, okay? It doesn't get received even if I want it to. Because this is going to pick up... You know, this is going to... If this is a cog... If I'm a cog and you're a cog, this is going to pick up where our wheels connect. All right? This isn't just going to pick up like a magnet, you know, some little version of me like that. It's just not. You know, the things that will connect with where they will as a result of things kind of beyond us. And so this kind of desire that I have to even goad that version of me on to make better decisions, it's not going to work, bro. I've heard the whole DARE program. I've heard of the don't do drugs kind of thing. I've heard of the stop fucking up your life MO. I've heard of the get on top of your shit MO. I've heard of all these things, and I have my own personal relationships with these things. You know, I'm a stubborn person. And this goes back to the idea that I wanted to speak about entirely. It's like, I don't want to hear shit, okay? I don't. And if I do want to hear shit, I only want to hear the things that I want to hear, all right? This is how I am. I don't want to hear other people's perspectives on things. I don't want to hear other people's takes on things. No. I want to hear, and if I did, I would want to hear the very specific and unique spokesperson to me in that instance. So I'm at an impasse here, am I not? And so I have decisions to make. First and foremost, I feel myself closing. I feel myself moving towards the trough of the wave form. We're on the downward part, right? We're coming across the tidbit of information that is like pulling hairs. It's the part of the bandage that stuck to your hairs. This is the part where I reveal where I'm at and what I think about things. I think to myself, it's all good and well. Other people are enjoying this. That other people are getting things from this. Right? That could only be good, right? That could only be good for me. That could only be good for them if what they find in whatever the hell I'm sort of uncovering within my experience is valuable to them somehow, or that they like it enough to stay. Inside me is a kind of repulsion force, okay? Because I'm always wanting to push away from consume. Don't consume. I say push. I push away and I push off of consume, and I push towards produce. I push towards decompose. I think that you can make. There's change that can happen in your life as a result of consuming various things. This is for sure. I like dynamic change in my life, and dynamic change, big changes, happen as a result of decomposing pre-existing things in my life and turning those into nutritious factors. Manure to grow fresh blueberries with, composting, producing, ABP, always be producing. When you consume, and so this goes out to the artists, this goes out to the creatives especially, like there's a breed of people out there who are artistic, they're creative, they are people who make things and they tinker and all of this and so on and so forth. And something that is very translucent in our lives is how what we consume comes out in the end product. When you eat corn, later on that day, you ate corn. Consuming things goes beyond food sustenance. It's food for thought. It's the music you listen to when you're producing things. It is the various things that the algorithm has judged that you like that come out in the things that you produce later on. It's the things on the YouTube algorithm, the various social media, Reddit, all of these various, social medias, these content caves, these cornucopias of content. To the creatives, to the people who are making things out there or want to, or have this sort of intrinsic feeling about it, it is kind of addictive because this is how you spend your time. When you're doing fuck about things, this is how you spend your time. You're scrolling, you're intaking other people's ideas, and funnily enough, you can't control any of that shit. Maybe you might be able to kind of finagle with the system a little bit, and that's to say that you can, if you're ever getting a shitload of some particular kind of content, you could just quickly flip through. You can scroll really fast through it, and it'll let the algorithm know that you're not interested in anything that it's giving you, and then you can close the app, and then you can pop open the app again maybe 20 minutes later and just do the same thing, and you can scroll until something catches your attention, and you can change your algorithm in this kind of way, so that way you only sort of find the things that you're particularly interested in that given point in time, as opposed to it being just this wide vacuum of empty space where there's just various tidbits of welcome to the internet, have a look around kind of thing. Take this quirky quiz. Take this vaccine so we can indoctrinate your kids. Welcome to the internet. Have a look around. There's everything. And so it's translucent, and it may or may not be sinister. It may or may not be sinister, but for me in my life and my, how I go about life, I'm stubborn and I'm hyper independent in a obviously not entirely, but I've always wanted to do things on my own. Always. I remember one of my first memories was me picking out my very first outfit, my own sort of creation. I had clothes. I was 4 years old? 3-4 years old? And I made my own outfit. And and then I went into the room where my mom was, and I was like, check me out. I'm swagged up, homie. Check me out. I made this all by myself. Look at this. Just always wanting that. And so I'm at a place in my life where I go fucking crazy, dude. I legitimately go crazy because I want as little sort of influence over the things that I make as possible. And so, fuck the algorithms, fuck the things that it thinks that I'm interested in, and also a peace sign middle finger to the various other ideas of people that are out there in the world, because I'm very of the nature that my brain can't tell the difference sometimes. My brain can't tell the difference between something that I heard and do I believe it, or was it just something that just skipped through the, it just kind of got its foot in the door and made its way through into the gap, right? How much of what is going on in my life is somebody else's belief about life versus what it is that I actually believe in life. And so if I can just, cut ties with social media as much as possible and really just do some post and ghost shit, maybe this is the most higher ordinance thinking I could possibly do as someone who produces various things and breaks things down in my life. That I don't need any voices from the peanut gallery. I'd rather just be the monkey that can't hear shit. There's the monkey that can't say shit, there's the monkey that can't see shit, and there's the monkey that can't hear shit. Is there another monkey? The monkey that can't feel shit? I'm definitely the monkey that can't feel shit right now. I can't feel shit. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get out of here. All praise due to you. I pray for us. I hope to constantly be in the present pocket of the moment and make the best possible decisions for me, for you, for all sentient life, for everything that's going on in the universe, to not impose my will upon the universe, but to Find something harmonious, the feng shui in all things. God bless you, everybody. Take care. Good night.